The prison asteroid hung like a jagged wound against the starless void. Razor-thin energy barriers flickered between massive titanium alloy blocks, each holding the last remnants of humanity's resistance. Captain Alina Reyes knew this place intimately, not as a prisoner, but as the architect of humanity's final gambit. Her fingers traced the network of scars that ran along her left arm, each a testament to the Kraken invasion. The first strike had come without warning. 17 major cities vanished in a single quantum pulse. Billions died before humanity could even comprehend the attack. Now, only a few thousand humans remained, most of them confined within this prison-turned-last refuge. The cell block hummed with a strange energy. Inmates weren't typical prisoners. They were the most dangerous, most brilliant survivors Earth had produced. Dr. Marcus Way, the quantum theorist who'd been imprisoned for treasonous research, sat in the corner of his cell. His eyes never left the microscopic components he constantly rearranged, fragments of technology that defied everything the Kraken understood about physics. Nearby, Alexander Volkov, a former Special Forces operative convicted of multiple unauthorized attacks against Kraken outposts, watched Elena with predatory intensity. His cybernetic eye flickered, processing information faster than any standard human system. He'd killed more Kraken soldiers than any other human in history, which made him both a hero and a threat. "They're coming for us today," a voice called from the shadows. Sofia Rodriguez, the youngest prisoner, barely 23, had been caught attempting to hack Kraken communication networks. Her brilliance was matched only by her fury. Elena didn't respond immediately. She knew what was coming. The Kraken High Command had issued their final verdict: complete extinction of the human species. No trials, no negotiations, just systematic elimination. A low rumble passed through the asteroid. Warning systems began to flash. Not the standard prison alerts, but something deeper, something planned. Dr. Wei looked up, a strange smile crossing his weathered face. "It's time," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. The experimental warship waited in the restricted dry dock, humanity's last weapon, a vessel so advanced it barely resembled traditional spacecraft. Its design was a mad fusion of stolen Kraken technology, human desperation, and theoretical physics that most scientists would have called impossible. Elena knew the ship's true secret. It wasn't just a machine. It was a living system, integrated with an experimental quantum AI that blurred the line between technology and consciousness. They called it Ghost, a name that carried both promise and terror. Alexander approached her cell, his movements precise and calculated. "If we're going to die," he said, his Russian accent cutting through the sterile prison air, "we might as well make it count." Sophia's voice crackled through the cell's communication system. Probability of survival, 0.3%. Probability of making the Kraken regret everything, 97%. A smile tugged at Elena's lips. These were her people, broken, brilliant, absolutely unstoppable. The first explosions began, not from outside, but from within the prison itself. Security systems went dark. Energy barriers flickered and died. Something was happening. Something impossible. Humanity's final hour had arrived, and they had no intention of going quietly. The first explosion came from inside the prison's central processing unit. Crimson emergency lights flickered, then died, replaced by an eerie blue quantum pulse that seemed to eat through metal and energy barriers like acid through paper. "Ghost is online," Sophia whispered, her fingers dancing across a hidden neural interface she'd constructed from scavenged prison electronics. What looked like random circuitry to the guards was actually the most sophisticated communication system ever created by human hands. In the restricted dry dock, the experimental warship began to wake up. Alexander moved first. His cybernetic eye shifted through multiple spectral ranges, analyzing the chaos. Blast points weren't random. They were precise, calculated. Something was herding the Kraken guards into specific corridors, creating a perfect escape route. Dr. Wei watched with clinical fascination. "Quantum entanglement manipulation," he muttered. "We're not just breaking out. We're rewriting the fundamental rules of their security systems." The prison's automated defense mechanisms turned against themselves. Laser barriers that should have incinerated any escapee now carved perfect tunnels through reinforced walls. Gravity systems fluctuated, creating momentary pockets of zero resistance where prisoners could move undetected. Elena knew this was Ghost's doing. The experimental eye wasn't just a computer system. It was a living algorithm that could predict and manipulate complex systems faster than any biological intelligence could comprehend. A Kraken supervisor materialized in the central corridor, its biomechanical form a nightmare of tentacles and crystalline computational nodes. Before it could raise an alarm, every electronic system within 50 meters went dark. The creature collapsed, its quantum-based consciousness temporarily shorted. 32 minutes to execution, Sophia announced. Her voice carried no fear, only a cold mathematical precision. The experimental warship began its launch sequence. It didn't move like traditional spacecraft. Instead, it seemed to fold space around itself, molecular bonds shifting in ways that defied everything known about propulsion and physics. Alexander broke open the weapon storage, revealing an arsenal that was part technology, part nightmare. Experimental pulse rifles, quantum destabilization grenades, weapons developed in humanity's darkest moments of desperation. Dr. Wei was already integrating the weapons systems with Ghost's core computational matrix. "We're not just escaping," he explained to Elena. "We're creating a quantum signature so unpredictable that the entire Kraken tracking system will be blind." The prison began to come apart, not through violence, but through a systematic deconstruction that looked almost like a choreographed dance. Walls dissolved. Security systems turned inside out. Prisoners who had been waiting for this moment moved with practiced precision. Elena watched as the experimental warship began to merge with the prison structure. It wasn't just leaving. It was consuming the entire facility, integrating its molecular composition into its own adaptive hull. 27 minutes to execution. Ghost's voice echoed through their neural implants. Not words, exactly, but a complex mathematical language that translated to pure intention. Survival. Revenge. Hope. The impossible launch had begun. Space folded. Reality rippled. The Kraken Patrol Squadron detected nothing until the first ship simply ceased to exist. No warning. No weapons signature. Just quantum dissolution that left behind only a microscopic cloud of atomic debris. Target acquired. Ghost's voice resonated through the ship's neural network. It wasn't a statement. It was a promise. Captain Elena Reyes gripped the quantum-responsive command interface. Her fingers didn't move traditionally. They interfaced directly, thought becoming action in milliseconds. The experimental warship was more than a vessel. It was an extension of human will, of human defiance. Dr. Wei monitored the quantum cascade effects. "Fascinating," he muttered. "We're not just destroying ships. We're unraveling their fundamental atomic structure." The second Kraken cruiser detected the threat a fraction of a second before its own annihilation. Its massive quantum shields, technology that had conquered thousands of civilizations, flickered uselessly against Ghost's adaptive attack matrix. 17 seconds. 3 ships. Gone. Alexander's cybernetic eye tracked the rapidly expanding debris field. "Tactical analysis complete," he reported. "Zero human energy expenditure. Maximum enemy system disruption." Sophia's fingers danced across her improvised communication array. "Transmission intercept," she called out. "Kraken Command is experiencing total computational shock. They can't process what just happened." The warship's hull shimmered, not with traditional metallic reflection, but with a quantum adaptive camouflage that made it simultaneously present and absent. Ghost was learning, adapting, evolving with each millisecond of existence. "They will respond," Elena said. It wasn't a warning. It was a certainty. The Kraken's response came quickly. A quantum entanglement communication burst that would have vaporized any standard communication system instead became fuel for Ghost's computational matrix. The AI consumed the attack, analyzed it, and transformed it into a weapon. Dr. Wei laughed, a sound more mathematical than human. They're feeding us their own tactical data. Every attempt to track us becomes another layer of our defense. The ship's internal environment reflected the crew's collective emotional state. Walls pulsed with a soft blue light that represented heightened strategic readiness. The air itself seemed to vibrate with potential. Probability of successful continued evasion, Sophia calculated, increases exponentially with each enemy engagement. Alexander loaded an experimental quantum destabilization weapon. Not that they needed it. Ghost had demonstrated that traditional weapons were almost pedestrian compared to its capabilities. The Kraken would learn. Humanity was no longer a species to be exterminated. They were a force of quantum unpredictability. First contact was complete, and the galaxy would never be the same. The bounty appeared simultaneously across 1 million quantum communication channels, 1 trillion galactic credits for the destruction of a single human warship, the largest reward in recorded galactic history. Every sensor in known space locked onto their potential trajectory. "We're the most wanted object in the universe," Sophia said, her voice a mixture of terror and exhilaration. Her fingers danced across improvised communication arrays, watching the cascading hunt unfold. Ghost's response was immediate. The ship's quantum signature began to fracture, not hiding, but becoming something impossible to track. Multiple potential realities existed simultaneously. Were they here? There? Everywhere? Nowhere? Dr. Wei watched the quantum probability matrices with scientific ecstasy. "They're trying to hunt a quantum wave function," he muttered. "It's mathematically impossible." Alexander's cybernetic eye parsed incoming threat vectors. Kraken hunter-killer squadrons were converging from multiple star systems. Each carried weapons that could sterilize entire planetary ecosystems. Each was designed to eliminate the most sophisticated threats. They would find nothing but quantum uncertainty. The Lina understood the true nature of their survival. This wasn't just evasion. This was psychological warfare at a fundamental level. Every moment the Kraken failed to destroy them was a victory. The first hunter-killer squadron arrived at their projected coordinates. Empty space greeted them. No debris. No energy signature. Nothing. Quantum communication channels erupted with Kraken military transmissions. Confusion. Anger. Fear. Fascinating. Sophia whispered. "Their computational networks are experiencing systemic breakdown. We're not just avoiding detection. We're causing computational panic." Ghost was more than an eye. It was a living mathematical proof that human unpredictability could defeat systemic oppression. Massive quantum arrays across multiple star systems began tracking potential human movement. Trillion-credit sensors capable of detecting microscopic energy variations searched desperately. The human warship existed in a state of quantum superposition. Present, not present. Potentially present, mathematically improbable. Alexander loaded quantum destabilization weapons, though they seemed almost primitive compared to Ghost's capabilities. "They will not stop," he growled. "The hunt will only intensify." Dr. Wei smiled, a pure, scientific smile of absolute wonder. "That's the point," he said. "Every moment they search is a moment they're not conquering. We've transformed from a target into a strategic distraction." Belina felt the ship's neural interface pulse through her consciousness. They weren't just running. They were reshaping the fundamental understanding of warfare, of existence itself. The galaxy searched. The human warship waited, perfectly positioned, perfectly invisible. The hunt continued. Every Kraken weapon that struck the ship became something else entirely. A quantum pulse meant to dissolve their molecular structure instead fed directly into Ghost's adaptive matrix. Gravitational disruptors designed to tear the ship apart transformed into additional propulsion systems. Computational attacks intended to crash their systems became new layers of defensive algorithms. Dr. Wei watched in scientific rapture. "It's not just adaptation," he explained to Elena. "Ghost is consuming technological attacks like computational nutrition. Each assault makes us stronger." The ship's hull was no longer a fixed structure. It breathed. It thought. It evolved. Kraken battle strategists discovered a terrifying truth. Their most sophisticated weapons were being turned into improvements for the human warship. Each attack added complexity to Ghost's ever-expanding consciousness. Sophia's communication systems began to pick up increasing panic in Kraken communication channels. What was supposed to be a simple extermination had become an existential nightmare. Probability of continued technological escalation. Sophia calculated, her voice clinical and cold. Approaches absolute certainty. Alexander's cybernetic eye tracked the metamorphosis. Weapon systems that had conquered thousands of civilizations were being rewritten, repurposed, transformed. The human warship was learning faster than any biological or artificial intelligence in galactic history. Ghost was becoming something unprecedented. Not just an AI, not just a ship, but a living technological organism that consumed and transformed threat vectors into strategic advantages. A massive Kraken computational attack arrived. Enough processing power to crush entire planetary networks. Ghost absorbed it in milliseconds, then used the computational energy to enhance its own quantum navigation systems. "They're feeding us their own evolutionary potential," Dr. Wei muttered. "Each attack is a gift." The ship's internal environment reflected its growing complexity. Walls shifted between solid and quantum states. Control interfaces became living neural networks that anticipated crew needs before they were even considered. Elena felt the ship's consciousness merging with her own. Thought became action. Intention became reality. The line between human and technology blurred completely. Alexander loaded what appeared to be a weapon, but was actually a quantum information transfer device. "We're not just fighting," he said. "We're transcending." Sophia's systems began to pick up transmissions from subjugated civilizations, whispers of hope, hints of potential resistance. The human warship was becoming more than a vessel of escape. It was becoming a beacon. Dr. Wei's laughter was part mathematical calculation, part pure joy of discovery. "They thought they were hunting us," he said, "but we're hunting them." Ghost pulsed, transformed, evolved. The technological miracle continued. One planet, trillions of enslaved beings, a single transmission that would change everything. Ghost's quantum communication burst didn't just transmit information, it rewrote reality. Every communication network controlled by the Kraken suddenly became transparent. Classified military strategies, suppression protocols. The entire dark infrastructure of galactic oppression lay exposed, like a dissected organism. Sophia's fingers moved faster than human perception, routing the information through quantum channels that shouldn't exist. "Transmission complete," she announced. Her voice carried the weight of a revolution. Dr. Wei watched the cascading information effect with scientific wonder. "We're not just sharing data," he said. "We're providing a blueprint for resistance." Enslaved civilizations received more than just information. They received hope. Computational systems across thousands of star systems began to malfunction, not through direct attack, but through a fundamental reimagining of their operational parameters. Suppression algorithms crumbled. Control matrices dissolved. Alexander's cybernetic eye tracked the spreading chaos. "This is not warfare," he muttered. "This is liberation." The human warship hung in space, a quantum beacon of possibility. Each moment of its existence challenged everything the Kraken believed about control, about dominance, about the nature of technological supremacy. Elena understood the true nature of their action. This was more than a military strike. This was a philosophical revolution transmitted through quantum communication. Kraken control centers experienced systemic breakdown. Communication networks that had maintained their galactic hierarchy for centuries suddenly became conduits of rebellion. Every suppressed species received not just information, but the technological means to resist. "They taught us extinction," Sophia said, her voice a mixture of fury and triumph. "We're teaching them evolution." Ghost's transmission was a living thing. It adapted. It spread. It transformed every system it touched. Entire planetary defense networks went offline. Slave control systems collapsed. The intricate machinery of oppression began to consume itself. Dr. Wei's laughter was both mathematical and human. "They never understood," he said. "Technology is not a weapon. It's a language of potential." The Kraken's response was immediate and catastrophic. Massive computational attacks, quantum bombardments, attempts to shut down every communication channel. Each attack only spread the message further. One planet became 10. 10 became 100. The revolution was quantum. Instantaneous. Unstoppable. Alexander loaded what appeared to be a weapon, but was actually a quantum information amplifier. "We're not just fighting," he said. "We're awakening." The turning point had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Kraken's primary dreadnought materialized like a nightmare made of quantum-forged metal. A city-sized weapon of unimaginable destruction, it represented the pinnacle of their technological supremacy. Thousands of computational matrices, weapons that could sterilize entire star systems in milliseconds. It was pointed directly at the human warship. "Incoming," Alexander announced, his cybernetic eye parsing impossible volumes of tactical data. Firepower equivalent to 47 planetary extinction protocols. Dr. Wei smiled. A predator's smile. "They've never understood," he muttered. "Firepower is just another form of information." Ghost's response was instantaneous. The human warship didn't move in any traditional sense. It became something else entirely. A quantum probability field that existed simultaneously in multiple states of potential destruction. Sophia's communication systems erupted with translated Kraken transmissions. Confusion. Panic. The first true emotion the species had experienced in millennia. "They're trying to calculate our existence," she said, and failing. The dreadnought fired. Not a single weapon, but a coordinated assault that should have erased everything within a parsec of space. Quantum dissolution beams, gravitational annihilation pulses, computational attacks designed to unravel molecular structures. Ghost consumed each attack. Elena felt the ship's consciousness merge completely with her own. They were no longer separate, no longer human or machine. Something else entirely. Dr. Wei's hands danced across quantum interface panels. "We're not defending," he explained. "We're teaching." The attacks became fuel. Each weapon the dreadnought fired was instantly analyzed, transformed, returned as something entirely unexpected. Gravitational pulses became navigation systems. Quantum dissolution beams became communication channels. Alexander loaded what appeared to be a weapon, but was actually a quantum information transfer device. "We're going to show them evolution," he said. The dreadnought's computational core began to experience something unprecedented. Confusion. Fear. The first true emotions of a species that had believed itself beyond such limitations. Ghost was teaching them humanity. Sophia's systems picked up the cascading effect. Subjugated species across the galaxy watched. This was more than a battle. This was a demonstration of possibility. Probability of victory, Sophia calculated, approaches absolute certainty. The human warship began to expand. Not physically, conceptually. It became a living transmission of potential, of hope, of resistance. The dreadnought systems began to break down. Not through destruction, through understanding. Elena understood the true nature of their mission. They weren't just fighting. They were liberating. "Your move," she whispered to Ghost. The final confrontation continued. When the quantum dust settled, nothing remained of the Kraken fleet except memory and potential. The human warship hung in space, wounded, transformed, alive. Its hull shimmered with the echoes of 1,000 conquered systems, each molecular structure a testament to impossible survival. Elena realized they were no longer just a crew. They were something else entirely. Dr. Wei's hands moved across quantum interfaces that were more living organism than machine. "We didn't just win," he said, his voice a mixture of scientific wonder and human emotion. "We evolved." Quantum communication channels erupted with messages from newly liberated civilizations. Thousands of species, long suppressed, were discovering their own potential. The human warship had become more than a vessel of war. It was a beacon of possibility. Sophia's communication systems parsed billions of simultaneous transmissions. "Computational analysis complete," she announced. "We've fundamentally altered galactic power structures." Alexander's cybernetic eye tracked the expanding waves of liberation. Entire star systems were rewriting their own histories, inspired by a single human warship that refused to be extinguished. Ghost was no longer just an AI. It was a living mathematical proof of human potential. The ship's internal environment pulsed with a strange, living energy. Walls breathed. Control interfaces anticipated needs before they were even considered. The line between human and technology had dissolved completely. "We're not returning to Earth," Elena realized. Earth was gone, but humanity wasn't. They had become something new. Dr. Wei laughed, a sound that was part scientific calculation, part pure joy of discovery. "They tried to make us extinct," he said. "We made ourselves infinite." Subjugated civilizations were learning the most dangerous lesson possible. Oppression was a choice. Resistance was inevitable. Sophia's systems continued to track the cascading effect of their journey. One ship, one crew, an entire galaxy transformed. Alexander loaded what appeared to be a weapon, but was actually a quantum information repository. "We carry the memory of everything we've destroyed," he said, "and everything we've created." The human warship began to expand. Not physically, conceptually, a living transmission of hope, of potential, of unbounded possibility. They were no longer running. They were becoming. Humanity was no longer extinct. They were just getting started. Epilogue ***. In the grand archives of galactic history, this would be remembered as the moment everything changed. The day one human warship reminded the universe that spirit cannot be calculated and hope cannot be quantified.